Well, hey everybody, Krystal here. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. If you are brand new here and you've never joined me on one of these live streams before, let me introduce myself. I am Krystal Proffitt, and I teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. And I'm really excited to come here today and do something a little bit different. And I wanted to talk to you about your podcast and the cool things that you can do with a podcast. Because if you are brand new to this world, then maybe you've thought about podcasting. You're like, I think that this is something I'd like to try, but you haven't really gone all in, right? Or maybe you've had this idea that this is something you should do, but you've been second guessing it, or you're telling yourself, I'm not the expert in my topic yet, but that's okay. This is actually a good thing because you get better at your podcast topic the more you immerse yourself in that world. So I'll give you a great example. I didn't know anything about running a podcast just 2 years ago. So I have been podcasting for 2 years, but in that short amount of time, I say short, but let's be honest, it's a long time in the technology world, right? Like I feel like podcasting is moving at hyper speed, but in that amount of time, I have published close to 300 podcast episodes. I know, I totally get it. I actually just published, I believe it was episode 174 today of the Proffitt podcast. And I have a daily podcast that is getting really close to having 100 episodes itself. Plus I've done other interviews, and I am just, if you ask anybody that knows me, I am a full-blown geek whenever it comes to podcasting. So the reason why I tell you that is because I didn't know how to teach podcasting when I first started, right? Like I fumbled around a lot. I looked up some YouTube videos. I was on the old Google trying to figure out what I needed to do. And I finally put all the pieces of the puzzle together in a way that I thought would work for me. But as time has gone on, I have definitely realized some strategies that are behind the scenes that not a lot of podcasters talk about, or even entrepreneurs, whenever it comes to how they create content for their business and how it plays a bigger role in generating revenue for the goals that they have in different areas of what they're doing in their online business. So that's really what I want to talk about today. I said, this is all Let's Talk Podcast, but what this really is how you can use your podcast as a means to make money for your business. Did your ears just perk up a little bit, right? You're like, wait, I thought I had to have millions of downloads before I had like any revenue coming in, or I thought I had to have sponsors. That's the only way to make money. Or I thought I needed to have big hotshot guests, or I needed to do this, or I need to do that. No. There is a very specific way that you can make money with your podcast. And the number one rule that I live by is truly understanding who your audience is. So with that being said, I decided I wanted to dedicate the entire month of August to helping you create a digital product that goes along with your podcast. Okay, let me say that again. The entire month of August 2020 is going to be dedicated to helping you figure out how to create a digital product that aligns with your podcast. Because if you are someone like me, who whenever I first started my podcast, if you've been around here for a while, you may or may not know this story. So I'm just going to refresh everybody. The podcast I have today is not the podcast I started with. The podcast I started with was about female entrepreneurs and entrepreneur stories and motivation and inspiration and just really sharing what I knew and with the people that I knew. Right? So if you're starting off as a podcaster and you're like, I have my mom and my best friend, those are my listeners, That's okay. That's how I started too. We all start that way unless we have an existing audience. That's totally fine. But now that I have a very clear definition of the audience that I serve and the people that I serve, I know exactly who I'm talking to. I know what to tell them, what they need before they even need it. I actually had a cool example. I wasn't going to talk. I didn't have this example until probably about an hour ago, but I have someone who doesn't listen to my show on a total regular basis. And she told me that. I was like, that's fine. She said, you're just my go-to person when I have a question about podcasting. And she said, I was wondering about show notes, and I was looking through your resources because I knew Krystal had something about show notes. And she said she found it. But what was even cooler is she asked a follow-up question, which is literally the podcast episode that I have coming out on Thursday of this week. You want to talk about like little nuggets of validation that come along from time to time and tell you you're on the right track? That is exactly what that looks like. So if you've been podcasting for a while and you're starting to see people say, oh my gosh, you created this just for me. Or if you're thinking about podcasting and you're like, oh, that sounds like a dream boat to have someone tell me this is exactly like you created this for me, then stick with me, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the month of August as we explore how you can create digital products around your podcast. Because like I said in the beginning, you don't have to have millions of listeners, thousands of downloads in order to monetize your show. I want you making money with your podcast long before you have an audience of just people that just come and listen every single week. You're kind of like white noise in the background, right? You're just something that they do on a Wednesday. I want you to have raving fans who, as soon as you send them an email, they're like, oh, what do they have to say today? Or what kind of valuable information are they going to give to me? Because I know every time they send me something, it's exactly what I need. It's exactly what I'm looking for. And I know it's going to be super, super valuable. So if you're excited about this, let me know in the comments, because I would like to know what podcast topic you are thinking about exploring, or if you already have a podcast, what is it about? Tell me in the comments, because I truly want to know how I can cater the information that we're going to talk about over the next few weeks towards what you do, right? Because I don't want to just be talking about my experiences and the people that I've interacted with, from my students and my clients and members of my community. I want to know what you do and what you're trying to create with your podcast. Or if you already have an existing business that you've already started, how are you incorporating your podcast into that business, and do they align? That's another question we need to talk about, because back in the day, whenever I started my podcast, what I talked about on my show didn't necessarily align with the thing that I wanted to do in my business. They were two totally separate things. Now, granted, I will say I didn't really have much of a business when I started my podcast. I had a lot of aspirations to have a business, but my online business kind of spawned from me just trying a whole bunch of different things. And I won't go into it today, because I actually have a podcast episode coming out very soon about my journey to where I am in my online business. And it actually starts back in 2009. So we'll go into all of that. Don't worry, that is an upcoming podcast episode. But I just kind of wanted to throw it out there that if you're sitting here watching this right now and you're like, I don't even have a business whatsoever, well, podcast is a great place to start, because it establishes you as an authority in your field. First and foremost, you become someone's go-to resource whenever they have a question about your particular topic. Just like I told you today about my friend that sent me an Instagram DM and said, I know you probably have a podcast episode about this, but I don't know which one it is, and I don't know which one that I need to go check out to answer this specific question. But I will say it was super cool to just tell her. I just sent her the link. Here, this is what you need. And she said, thank you so much. This is exactly what I was looking for. And I also know that person, this one person in my audience, after a while, once you've established yourself as an authority, we'll start telling other people, hey, you need to go talk to Krystal about podcasting because she's kind of crazy about it and she's a little obsessed. Like, right, it's a healthy obsession. It's okay. It's nothing bad. But she's obsessed with podcasting and she knows all of the things that will help you with your podcast and how to incorporate that into your business. That is my overall goal, is to see you do the same thing with the topic that you're talking about for your podcast. So I'm going to check the comments here. And I see, somebody says I don't have sound. Can y'all not hear me? Oh, this is killing me. Let me see here. It says that it's working. I'm hoping that you can hear me. I see that someone just put that they don't have sound. So if that's the case, then I will hop off in a second and do this whole shebang again. But for those of you that can hear me, I hope that you will join me in August for all of the trainings that I have, from podcasts to YouTube videos to Facebook Lives to a bunch of other really fun resources that I can't wait to share with you. But we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff in August. So I hope to see you then. And I just want to sign off with how I sign off everything. And that is, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Bye, guys. I'll talk to you later.